I want to talk about something that you spend a good deal of time in the book discussing and amplifying, and that is the deep state. For a lot of our viewers who may not understand, what in the world is the deep state?
The deep state is government workers who are essentially making the decisions. That, we always think that people at the top, they're all making all the decisions, but the deep state, the ones who are dug in, the ones who aren't going anywhere, they're pretty much deciding how things should be handled. They don't care what the rules are. They know how to circumvent the rules. They know what the loopholes are, and they get together and they decide what they're going to do. And the classic example was the effort to unseat a sitting president, to frame him by the Comey and company, and then to create an insurance policy in the event that he did get elected, which caused 2 years of division in this country. And so the deep state is alive and well. It's part of the group that doesn't want to release FBI or information that Congress is asking for. They're resisting it in the State Department. They're resisting it in all the other departments by just saying no, no, no. And there's another person who I'm very, and I've had my concerns about him from the first time he testified before Congress, and that is Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI. I think he is very much a part of that establishment that isn't interested in justice, isn't interested so much in serving, the people of this country as protecting the agency and the people within it. That's not why we send people to Washington. We send people to Washington to represent us, not themselves.
Now, we spent 2 years, 17 full-time investigators, $30+ million investigating Russia. The Mueller report comes out. Basically, there's nothing there. I mean, there's not even really smoke there, even though the Democrats continually tried to believe that there was. Once that's over, now we're moving on to Ukraine, and the newest craze among the Trump haters is it's all about Ukraine. So why shouldn't we be worried that Ukraine is going to be the Achilles heel for this president?
Well, I'm not worried it's going to be the Achilles heel for the president. There are two ways of looking at it. Will the Democrats finally say, you know what, we couldn't prove Russia. We literally, and I blame one person for their Russia mess, and that's Jim Comey, because but for Jim Comey, the then head of the FBI, leaking some information as soon as he was fired to his friend, who was a Columbia professor, to get to the New York Times, a special counsel would never have been appointed. So now let's talk about Ukraine. The number one thing that I want to say is that the whistleblower law, first of all, doesn't apply to the president. Secondly, the individual who was making the complaint wasn't even one of the 25 or so people who was on that phone call, because of course every time the president is on the phone, there are about 25 people on, and people from the foreign country as well as this country, and none of them made the complaint, but someone based on hearsay is making a complaint. Now, assuming that there is no quid pro quo, all right, assuming that Donald Trump didn't say, unless you do something about Joe Biden and his son and come back with some kind of report that is damning about them, then, you're not going to get the money. No, the president, as the chief executive of this country, and the chief executive in any business, can say, was one of the people in my business, in my country, involved in shaking you down and causing you to dismiss a prosecutor for the benefit of his son. And the president isn't really digging. Joe Biden himself came out and said, I'm such a big shot. I went over there and I had $1.6 billion hanging over their heads. And I said, you don't get rid of that prosecutor, who, by the way, was investigating his son, Hunter Biden, and the company that he worked for in the Ukraine. If you don't get rid of that prosecutor, then you're not getting American tax dollars. Well, Joe Biden, who are you to take our tax dollars and use that as leverage to protect your son, who, by the way, has no experience in energy, no experience in oil, and ironically, Joe Biden is the energy point person in the Obama administration. I mean, this stinks to high heaven.
Well, you dissect it pretty thoroughly in the book, and people who want to understand what the deep state is and how it's affecting the way all of us live can get the #1 bestseller, Radicals, Resistance, and Revenge. It's on Amazon, other fine booksellers. Be sure to watch its author every weekend on Justice with Judge Jeanine on Fox News. And you can follow her on Facebook at Judge Jeanine Pirro and on Twitter at Judge Jeanine.